Hello, brilliant and embodied souls. My name is Kim. Welcome back to my channel. I have a chatty video for you today. We are going to talk somatic magic, what that is, and I'm going to share with you some decks that have been really helping me deepen into this idea of somatic magic. So, my name is the Somatic Sorceress here on YouTube. So I've wanted to bring my love of tarot, oracle, magic, psychology, and specifically somatic psychology, and weave some of this all together because something that I see missing within the tarot and oracle world, as well as the magical world, but just like the world in general, is bringing our bodies into the conversation. This is important because everything we experience vis-a-vis our bodies. Do we have other aspects of who we are? That, of course, really depends on your cosmological orientation. It really depends maybe on some of your spiritual orientation and some of the beliefs that you do or do not ascribe to, right? What I know and what I believe and what I've directly experienced is that my life has become more rich, more filled with ecstasy and joy, the more I have improved and deepened my relationship to my body. When I was younger, I, like a lot of people, oriented more towards my thoughts. I thought I was my thoughts and my thoughts alone. Maybe my emotions too. The older I get and the more I have worked on my relationship to my body, the more I have experienced all of those things and been able to step into new types of power and authority within myself. I've been able to command the more subtle energies that I experience within my body. Some of those are physical in nature, but some of them, translate into more emotional states. They certainly move into cognitions. And, this is the psychological piece of what I've always really been interested in, because I am a somatic psychotherapist first and foremost. I really care about helping people with this relationship that I'm describing to you, and taking it further in my tarot and oracle practice, as well as my magical practice. It goes without saying that like we don't bring our bodies into those discussions, or at least I don't see it being brought in. So that's an interest of mine. To kind of drive this home, I was watching a video by Ivy Corvus, formerly Ivy the Occultist, and she was actually speaking about exactly this. I will link the video below. If my memory serves, she talks about this like later in the video, so heads up. She was speaking about how really taking care of her body is a type of magical act, because we need to be solid in ourselves to be strong magical practitioners. And yeah, there's like a health element here, certainly. I don't want to be like ableist or anything like that, but the more time we spend taking care of our bodies, the more we're going to be able to do our tarot practice and oracle practice, the more we're going to be able to step into our spiritual practices, and the more we're going to be able to live our lives to the fullest. So this feels like a very multifaceted idea, the concept of somatic magic. I'm really kind of trying to define it for myself. But for today's purposes, I really want to talk about some decks that I've been working with that have really helped me hone in on somatic spirituality. And as we look at the decks, I'll talk a little bit about like what I mean by that, using the decks as an example. So let's talk somatic magic and the decks that have captured my imagination. So I'm going to start with that idea of nutrition and our relationship to what we ingest. And I have the Dirt Gems Oracle here to demonstrate this. I think, any kind of herbally oriented deck could be used in the practices that I'm going to talk about. This is the independent produced version. There's, of course, a mass market version out there, which is amazing. Okay, so a big part of somatic magic is working with plant spirits and herbalism, which I actually don't know tons about. I'm becoming more herbally curious because of a consultation that I recently had. So to me, like, somatic magic means learning about plant spirits, learning about herbal remedies that allow us to partner with the energies and the spirits of other beings who are also embodied. Plants are embodied beings just like we are. Sure, they're not animals, but they're very much alive, and they have consciousness. Or at least I believe that they have consciousness. This deck really speaks to what the flavor of that consciousness is, depending on the plant. It is deepening my knowledge of plant spirits. So that's the first level, right? Of course, like developing knowledge of herbalism, what it means to work with plants, like flower essences or plant essences. So anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. So I've been having like some kind of like weird health stuff. So I had a consultation with some skillful herbalists. They have given me a personalized tea that I have been making. And then they also created a personalized tincture for me. The tincture does have flower essences within it. But there are other actual herbal compounds going on. I've been taking the tincture and the tea for well over a month at this point, and the results are very surprising. I was kind of like, even though, right, like you can sense where my heart, where some of my beliefs fall, like on the one hand, like I believed that these remedies could help me. Otherwise, right, why would I have gone to the herbalist? But I was still kind of skeptical. I'm not gonna lie. That's just kind of who I am. I want to remain rooted in critical thinking. And part of that is being a touch skeptical. At any rate, I am really loving my relationship with this tea and this tincture. It is really helping me. I'll just give one example. It has lowered my anxiety in very palatable and meaningful ways. Like, I have tons of other tools that help me with my anxiety. I'd say like my anxiety levels at present are very low in the grand scheme of things, but the tincture has really helped me with specifically overwhelm. Overwhelm feeds into my anxiety, and I have felt overwhelmed less since working with the tea and taking the tincture. Very cool. So what I'm getting at here, right, is like somatic magic is working with plant spirits, working with the other, like working with the natural world around us. Like, this could easily go into crystals. I'm not a huge crystal person, although I do have like very specific crystals that have called to me specifically, right? They called out to me. And those crystals, along with the plants, end up being we're having a physical spirit energy relationship, which is really contributing to my health. So working with plant decks is a great way to familiarize ourselves with those types of relationships and guide our engagement in those types of relationships. All right, let's move on to the next category of deck. Here I have the Anatomy of Healing. This is an independently produced deck by Fran Treschler. I think this comes from Europe. I'm pretty sure the creator lives in Germany, so heads up. It's probably going to be pricier. You get this like really cool zine type guidebook, and then we've got cards with different parts of the human body depicted. And then we've got some really lovely keywords. So for example, arteries carry the joy of life. Love it. So this deck showed up in my somatically oriented decks video that I did way back when. Check that video out. The way that I've been working with this deck recently, though, is drawing a card and really focusing on like what part of my body needs healing energy right now. So, let's say I pulled the jaw card. Under pressure, that's the key word. I will give a look to the guidebook. I will pay a little bit of attention to the keyword, but really mainly I'm taking this as a cue to really sense into my jaw. I'm going to do it right now. I really sense into my jaw and take a little bit of an awareness, like body awareness, like direct my awareness to that part of my body and just check in, like what is happening with my jaw. And let's say that I do, and I do kind of try to do a little bit of energy work. I will do this practice where I like really tap into the healing etheric energy that I've been cultivating a relationship with, and I will direct that energy into that area of my body and really focus on clearing, cleansing, strengthening that area of my body, and that's being directed by this particular deck and my work with this deck. Sometimes, I don't need a deck to do that kind of practice. Sometimes I can just sense, like right now, I can sense that my right shoulder needs some of that cleansing, clearing, regenerative type of energy. So even right now, I'm just kind of welcoming that in. But this is a practice that is really dovetails nicely into having a deck like this. The other deck that in my collection that has the potential for this type of practice is the Energy Archaeology deck. I've mentioned it on the channel before. I'm sure that there are other like more body-based decks that have kind of a healing, psychological, but also like again like somatic, physiological combined with the psyche tone. But surprisingly, there's not tons and tons of decks out there like that, which is a little spoiler alert for all of you who have made it this far in the video. I'm actually working on a deck that is going to support somatic magic, that's going to support more body engagement in our spiritual practice. So stay tuned for that. But I feel like there's a lack of decks out there that are inviting us into some of these more body-based magical practices that are needed, because we are embodied beings, aren't we? We have bodies that has to factor in to the practices that we engage in, at least in my opinion. Okay, let's keep the show on the road with the decks. The next practice and type of deck that I want to talk about has to do with kind of twofold. So with tarot decks, here I have the Solar Logos, which I just recently did a review of. I also talked about it in my mid-year check-in. I will use a deck like this that has lots and lots of people, and I will pull a card, and I will take on the body posture depicted in the card. So I will embody this particular Knight of Pentacles, and I will really step into the card using my own body. Another, an even better example is this Six of Pentacles, right? The person depicted here has a very specific gesture. So I will actually like take my hands and do the gesture that is depicted in the tarot card, and really like feel into my felt sense of that particular card. And this gives me a whole other layer of information that is really deepening my tarot and oracle practice. You could definitely do this practice with a oracle deck that has a lot of people in the oracle deck, but you do need a deck that depicts gestures, body language, even emotional states. Like check out that Five of Pentacles. Ooh, if you took this posture on, you would get a lot of layers of information and meaning. So for me, this type of practice serves two primary goals at least. Goal number one, I think if you're learning the tarot, this could be an amazing way to learn the tarot, right? Like if you take on this gesture and read the guidebook meaning, or like the traditional meaning, as according to like a hermetic, kind of Golden Dawn based deck, and you take on this posture, like you are gonna get a download of very potent information. So that's the first thing that like comes to my mind. If you're learning the tarot, this could be very valuable. But like in the case of myself, right, I have my basic tarot knowledge down at this point. So for me, this is really getting a deep dive into a specific deck. It really drops me in and gives me psychic access to another possible layer of information. And that has enriched my readings, my personal readings, quite a bit these days. Yeah, loving it. The other practice that comes to my mind with a tarot deck and like, you know, kind of a somatic magic kind of approach, is like just pulling a card. For some reason I'm shuffling again. Just feels good to shuffle. Pulling a card, and then I will move. Oh yeah, the Chariot, right? Moving with the Chariot energy. Perfect. I will pull a card for the day, and I will move with the energy of that card. I might start with the body language of the, you know, person in question, but then I'll like move with it. I'll do a little interpretive dance, right, of like my understanding of Chariot energy. And that's again like another layer of information. You know, this practice is based off of, again, like you do probably have some knowledge of the meanings of the tarot, but you know, it brings that intuitive meaning making into another level and layer. It's a really phenomenal practice. And I might do a whole video devoted to that idea. But, you know, like imagine, right? Like you move with this Three of Pentacles as an example. You start with the gesture, but then like you start moving with it. I mean, it could take you to some beautiful, beautiful places. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about another aspect of somatic magic that I have never heard anybody talk about. Here I have the Talisman Oracle. This practice is very much for any deck that has sigils or is a little bit more talismanic in nature. And there aren't tons and tons of decks out there like this. Laura Zercraft, oh shoot, I'm forgetting her name. I'm so sorry. She had there's a couple of sigil decks out there. Laura Tempest Zachroft, is that it? Anyway. I'm getting annoyed with myself. If you have a sigil deck, you can, you know, draw a card, and let's say you want to charge that sigil, you could start using your body to make the sigil. And that to me is very, very powerful, right? Because if you're into sigils, like, you know that a big part of it is embedding the sigil into your subconscious. I can think of no better way to do just that than to develop a sigil and like start drawing it, right? Over and over and over, you know, you could use drumming music or any kind of music, you know, that floats your boat to like really raise the energy to charge the sigil. I don't know, like I've been experimenting with like that technique, and it has been very useful, incredibly useful. I've seen a lot of potent results with this particular technique. And decks like the Talisman Oracle really facilitate that. I will you know, sometimes I want inspiration for a sigil. I will pull out this deck. This is a great clarifier deck. You know, so as a divinatory tool, this doesn't factor in so much. But like, let's say, you know, I pull a card and I really like the card for a daily draw. You know, like for example, like let's say I pull the let go card, and there is something that I really want to let go today in the daily draw, where I would construct a sigil based off of this card pull and work it into my daily practice. I actually have done that, which is really cool. And has been effective. So yeah, sigil decks, that's another way of engaging with that type of deck. My last deck that I want to talk about is newer to my collection, and that is the Antique Anatomy Tarot. This is of course a oldie but a goodie. Like tons of people have this deck. It's not new to any of you, but it is brand new to me. But the reason why I'm bringing this deck into our conversation today is that it is a ancestral deck. To me, it's a deck that connects me with the dead. It's a deck that is tapping me into my familial lineage. And you know, what is more somatic than our ancestral line, right? My genetics, my nose, my eyes, right? Like I can see where my body comes from when I look at my parents, when I look at my parents' siblings, when I look at my grandparents, you know, when I look at photographs of my ancestors going back a couple of generations, I am fortunate enough to have access to some of those photographs. This deck taps me into those people and allows me to have conversations with my ancestors and honor my ancestors, which feels like a deeply, deeply somatic practice, especially as related to this health piece. You know, I've touched on a lot of different somatic elements or somatic magic practices in this video. You know, but a pretty big one, a pretty significant one is this health piece. And when I was in grad school to be a therapist, we did what's called a genogram. So you lay out your family lineage and you track relational dynamics and patterns. You track health related patterns and dynamics. You track mental health concerns and so on and so forth. There's a lot of things that you can map onto a genogram. I mapped health conditions, and on my dad's side of the family, there are some very specific health conditions that do people in. And that became so apparent to me. So I've been working with my dad, my ancestral line on my dad's side, using this deck to specifically get into issues related to my heart, issues related to like strokes, and blood pressure and things like that. It has been very, very satisfying. It has been a deeply meaningful practice for me. You know, this type of deck obviously would look so different depending on your ancestral lineages, you know, where your people come from in the world. You know, that I'm just using this as an example because it feels very tapped into where my ancestors came from. That probably isn't the case for a lot of you watching this video, you know, like that's cool. But you know, think about a deck that does help you relate to your ancestors. And that allows you to have conversations with them and inspire potential healing rituals and potential, like combining these two types of decks. Like, these will look very good together, by the way. Oh, spot on. But combining conversations with your ancestors along with pulling a card to identify like where you need healing energy within your body would be a very, very potent card practice, and is so like somatically magical. Yeah. So I'm going to leave the video at that for today. I really look forward to having more conversations about this idea of somatic magic and the decks that I use to weave together these practices. I have been loving exploring my somatic magic with all of the tools, techniques that I described to you today. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I would love to hear if you have somatic magic ideas. It's something that I really look forward to collaborating with others around. Till the next video, I am sending you all kinds of love. Till next time.